Are we ready? Okay. It is now 6 p.m., a Wednesday, March 5th at 6, and I'd like to open the meeting. Adam, will you please take roll call?
Thank you, Chair. Bartolo Square North, Nate Castillo. Bartolo Square South, Justin Richards. Blackstock North, Nancy Rand. Blackstock South, Christopher Bissonette. Bryce Canyon North, John Hike. Cabrillo, Rainey Steffen. Yes. Cal Giesler, Teresa Salazar. Here. Carrot Square, Guido Goldner. Here. Channel Islands, Tom McAnally. East Village, Ronald Orejo. Here. Rio West, Jan Ryberg. 5 Points Northeast, Pat Brown. Fremont North, Dave Ebbett. Fremont South, Kim Winch. Hobson Park East, Roger Poirier. Hobson Park West, Cecilia Ravello. Kamala Park, Robert Lucio. La Colonia, Ramon Lopez. Lemonwood, Larry Stein. Orchard Park, Diana Velzi.
Here.
Oxnard Dunes, Lisa Hewitt.
Here.
Oxnard Shores, Walt Hagedum. Pleasant Valley Estates, Rosanna Biggerstaff. Rio Lindo, Sandy Diaz. Here. Paul Schneebelen, River Park. Rose Park, Alfonso Arroyo. Here. Sea Air, Edward Castillo. Seaview Estates, Isaac Califf. Here. Sierra Linda, Sergio Garcia. South Bank, Debbie Aravello. Southwind, Sofia Vega. Via Marina, Doug Tauber. Wagon Wheel, Amanda Meir. West Village, Michael Gleason is here in the back. Wilson, Angela Whitecomb. And Windsor North, Andres Sanchez. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on. Item B, the Pledge of Allegiance. Lisa, will you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Item C, approval of the minutes from February 5th, 2025. Please, if you don't, go ahead.
I just have one comment. I've discovered a typo on the minutes under the item C, approval of minutes. It just says December. It needs to be updated to December 4th, 2024, so I'll be updating that.
Under December, I'm sorry.
It just says December next to approval of minutes on item C. So I will be updating that to December 4th, 2024.
Oh. Okay. Are there any other changes?
I make motion to approve it.
Okay, we have a second? Okay, a motion to approve minutes with the changes as indicated by Adam, seconded by Doug Tauber. Everybody in favor to approve as changed, please say aye. Aye. Those with an issue, please say nay. None. And hearing none, minutes of February 5th, 2025 has been approved. Let's move on to new business. This week's going to be a short meeting. New business, subject, Via Marina Neighborhood.
Chair, we have public comment on there.
Oh, apologies. Sorry. Let's move on to public comments first. And item D goes before E. Okay, at this time, a person may address the INCO on matters within the subject matter jurisdiction of the INCO. The INCO cannot enter into a detailed discussion or take any action on any items presented during public comments at this time. Such items may only be referred to the Executive Secretary for administration action or scheduled on a subsequent agenda for discussion. Public comments on items on the agenda will be considered at the time of consideration of the agenda item. Okay, we have a couple already standing. Go ahead, sir. Please state your name and.
Hello, good evening. My name is Miguel Rodriguez. I am the Workforce Development Director for the Port of Wainimi, and I've been in contact with Mr. Chris Bissonette, and also Ms. Teresa Salazar and some of the other folks from other different neighborhoods adjacent to the port. And the reason why I'm here today is to establish a more formal relationship with the community councils, especially around some of the issues where we intersect, right? We do own the train tracks, and I know that those bypass some, or those actually go through some of the neighborhoods. And we are also in looking for ways and solutions, right, to help alleviate with some of the blight, right, that may be happening, right, on those train tracks, and also figuring out how we can collaborate with various neighborhoods. We do a lot of collaboration with the Southwinds neighborhood, which is adjacent to the port, but also figuring out how we can be a better neighbor and create some synergy around, as Mr. Bissonette has said, community pride. So that's my comment here. I know that we're all here to make Oxnard better, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak today.
Please, I'm sorry. Please shut your phone off, please. Go ahead.
No, that was it. Just
Okay.
speaking with some of the members, we are all here to make this a better community, and I am here to make myself available to be a better neighbor with.
All right,
to the
thank
port.
you.
Thank
And have they have your information?
Yes, and I will share it with them so we can so everybody can have it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Good evening. My name is Drew Sarney. I'm project manager for the housing department here in the city of Oxnard. I just came to let you guys know that recently we were awarded a HUD neighborhood choice grant, kind of fourth quarter last year. And as part of this grant, I will be reaching out to the neighborhood chairs of Wilson, Fremont South, Colonia, 5 Points Northeast, and Hobson Park East. Part of this grant the grant is specifically for creating a neighborhood transformational plan over the next 36 months. So we will need input from the community chairs and for them to be a sort of conduit between us and the residents of the neighborhood to let us know kind of the needs and the wants of the community. So I did reach out last week. I did hear back from Kim Winch, but I will be reaching out again tomorrow. Our consultant will be here from out of state on March 19th. So I'm trying to set up a stakeholder meeting with the neighborhood chair, with those 5 specific neighborhood chairs, so they can be interviewed by our consultant as part of the data collection process, and then further discuss the ambassador program through which we will use a member of each community also to be a conduit to transfer information back and forth between the housing department, our consultant, the city, to create this neighborhood transformational plan, which hopefully in 3 years we can reapply with that plan to HUD and receive a $50 million award to enact the neighborhood transformation plan.
Okay, and you said 5 neighborhoods, correct?
Correct.
I think I got them all, but would you slowly repeat them?
Colonia, Fremont South, 5 Points Northeast, Hobson Park East, and Wilson.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. And that's
Thank
it.
you. Is there anybody online or anybody else for public comments? Okay, so moving on. Item E this time, new business, Via Marina Neighborhood. Doug Tauber will be presenting that the INCO general membership receives a presentation for the Via Marina Neighborhood on environmental contamination.
Before I start,
Go ahead and,
there we go. Thank you. Before I start, I want to put my apologies to my colleague, Isaac Califf. This is pretty much with his neighborhood, and I've been meaning to reach out to you last couple of days, but I had been on vacation, and I had just come back, and I've been busy putting together this PowerPoint. So if there's anything that you want to add, feel free to come up and talk to me or make public comments. Alex, I apologize for not getting hold of you or Faith. All right?
No worries. I was out of town last weekend too.
Okay. So it's a wash. All right, thank you. This is our PowerPoint. I want to start out here to give a little bit of history on it, and this is pretty much a rehash of a meeting we had with the Los Angeles Water Board last September to give you some history on the facility that's been causing the toxic plume in the Seaview Estates neighborhood. Okay, so let's go out with the site location history. The site's located at the address of 3151 West 5th Street. Commercial industrial properties are adjacent to the west, north, and east property boundaries, and the Seaview Estates neighborhood and the Juan Laguna Sierra Elementary School is located to the south of the site. Between the 1960s and 1993, Pneumo Abex operated an aerospace component manufacturing facility at the site. Manufacturing operations included development of the aerospace components and such as pumps, valves, hydraulic systems. And the facility stored chemicals including chlorinated solvents containing volatile organic compounds known as VOCs and petroleum hydrocarbons in underground storage tanks for use during manufacturing operations. After the facility closed in 1993, all underground storage tanks, associated pipelines, and manufacturing equipment were removed from the property. The site currently includes one main building occupied by furniture and grocery suppliers, school bus dispatching maintenance and adult daycare facility, and the Mexican consulate. There's a small boat repair shop located to the northeast corner of the property. During Numex ABEX operations, at the property, unauthorized releases of volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, occurred. Subsequent investigations completed at the property in the 1990s identified VOC impacts to the soil and groundwater. Storage tanks and waste storage areas that were used at the property appear to be the source for the on-site chemical releases. The primary VOCs of concern are tetrachloroethylene, or PCE, and trichloroethylene, TCE, and degradation products of these two chemicals. As they break down, they go into, I say, less toxic chemicals. And so you still start getting a whole list of stuff. Chlorinated VOCs tend to persist and are slow to break down in the environment due to impacts to groundwater. The Los Angeles Water Board issued a cleanup and abatement order for the site in February 1995, requiring Pneumo Abex to clean up and abate the contamination to the soil groundwater. Remediation activities have been performed to the property, remove or reduce impacts to the soil and groundwater. These remediation activities include excavating approximately 11,000 cubic yards of impacted soil, pumping and treating millions of gallons of impacted groundwater, injecting approximately 92,000 pounds of hydrogen release compound at hundreds of injection points at the site to enhance remediation in the groundwater, and performing soil vapor extraction and institute groundwater feasibility tests. Now, what they do is they inject this hydrogen release compound, and what it does, as I said, these are slow to degrade, and what this compound does, it speeds up the degradation process, is what they do when they do with these. They have these injection wells that are put on the property. Next slide. As I mentioned previously, that the past operations at the facility contaminated soil and groundwater. This graphic on the slide is an illustration on how this can happen. For example, chemicals that leak during manufacturing operations in the building from storage tanks can migrate down through the soil, causing impact to soil and groundwater. Contaminants that dissolve into the groundwater can move with the groundwater, creating a contaminated plume in groundwater. These contaminated plumes can range from small tens to hundreds of feet in length to large over a mile length, depending on how fast groundwater is moving and the severity of contamination. The groundwater plume associated with the Pneumo Abex site is approximately 3,300 feet long, just a little over about a half mile. It appears to be not migrating. However, the last time the aquifers were mapped out and surveyed was about 7 years ago, and we've had some torrential rains, and that's one thing I like to see the city do, is possibly get new data on that. Sometimes when chemicals leak into the soil, they can evaporate into a gas and fill the space between the soil particles. This contaminated gas between the soil particles is called soil vapor. Under certain conditions, chemicals can also off gas of contaminated groundwater and cause soil vapor, as shown in this graphic. Soil vapor can travel upwards through the soil, depending on soil conditions. In some cases, soil vapor can travel upwards into spaces that are occupied by humans, as this graphic shows, and soil vapors that migrate into the buildings and other spaces is called vapor intrusion. To determine concentrations and the extent of chemicals in groundwater, monitoring wells are installed in the groundwater to collect measurements and samples. Groundwater samples have been collected for monitoring wells, installed at the site and in around the neighborhood to monitor groundwater and plume conditions. Currently, groundwater samples are collected twice a year, semi-annually, from 65 groundwater monitor wells located at the site on 5th Street and within the neighborhood. Groundwater beneath the site and surrounding areas is shallow and flows toward the southwest. First encountered groundwater currently ranges between 8 and 16 feet below the ground surface. It's important to know that shallow groundwater beneath the site and the neighborhood is currently not being used for drinking water purposes. Based on data collected, maps and figures showing the estimated extent of chemicals in groundwater can be produced. The map on the figure on this slide, the estimated extent of trichloroethylene, or TCE, is shown in the purple dashed contour lines, and groundwater that's above drinking water regulatory limit. And that's this whole plume you're seeing right here. Next slide. Get a close-up of it. To determine the extent of soil vapor contamination, soil vapor samples have been collected from the nested soil vapor probes installed at the former Pneumo Abex property at the school on 5th Street. Within Seaview Estates neighborhood, each soil vapor probe location consists of 2 probes, 1 shallow and 1 deep. During the spring of 2024, I think I'm on the wrong slide here. Let me go one more. There we go. During the spring of 2024, soil vapor sampling activities were completed at locations shown on the map on this slide. To assist the Los Angeles Water Board, staff with the California Office of Environmental Human Health Assessment were asked to review soil vapor data to evaluate the potential risk of human health. Soil vapor analytical data are compared to residential screening levels that are protective of human health. Soil vapor probe locations in green on this map indicate vapor samples for TCE was either not depicted or detected at concentration levels below residential screening levels during the spring 2024 event. As you can see on the map, most of the soil vapor locations are in green. However, some soil vapor locations on this map in black indicate TCE was detected at concentrations above residential screening levels during the spring 2024 sample event. As shown on the map, 3 probes on the southern portion of the site, 1 soil vapor probe on West 5th Street near Patterson Road, and 2 soil vapor probes at the school at TCE concentrations that exceeded the residential screening level. The Los Angeles Water Board and staff say concentrations of contaminants of soil vapor can vary between samples due to various factors, such as barometric pressure changes. As such, Los Angeles Water Board has required NUMO-ABEX to continue semi-annual soil vapor sampling events of existing nest vapor probes to monitor soil vapor conditions at the former NUMO-ABEX site, the school, and in the neighborhood. Also, Los Angeles Water Board has required NUMO-ABEX to complete additional soil vapor assessments in the vicinity of soil vapor probes at gas probe 17, gas probe 33, and gas probe 34, which is a very contentious one that has very exceedingly high, high readings. This is based on historical data collected at these 3 locations. That being said, recently, in January, NUMO-ABEX has submitted a work plan for additional vapor intrusion assessment and human health risk assessment. And that's kind of important because, getting off script here, what's been going on in this neighborhood is they test water, they test the groundwater, they also test soil vapor. And then the next step is if they are above certain screening levels consistently, they will go to indoor testing to find out if the residents are being poisoned. We're not there yet. We haven't been there for like 30 years. This is just a cycle that keeps continuing because they can't get consistent readings. My next slide here. As you can see, I kind of blew up some of these readings. What they call the environmental screening levels, which where they will, it's above environmental screening levels, is 16 parts per billion or per cubic meter. And you can see on this gas probe, here, let me go to gas probe 34. Come on, where is it? I have to blow it up here. I'm going to be going all over the place. I can't even read this now. This is the most recent one from September 2024. It's at 63,000 parts per billion at the 5-foot level, and at the 10-foot level, I think it's 84,000. And as you can see, if we go back, oh, there it is, 63 and 84,000. I want to go back to the spring 2024 event, and you can see that it was almost non-detect right here. And so as you can see, all these areas in green, they are showing non-detect. And later found out, as I went into these reports, because if you go into GeoTracker where all this information is, there are hundreds of files. And in each file, there are hundreds of pages. And it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. And I've been just digging and digging. And I've been working with geohydrologists and also with Jim Ryan, who's down at the Water Board, who's the in charge of this whole remediation project. As you can see right here, there was the letter where they actually found water, one of the probes underwater. So the reason, hang on, oops, I'm going the wrong way. The reason you're seeing these in green is not because they went down and tested them and they didn't find anything, is that they couldn't test them because they were underwater. And the thing about it is, this was in spring right after we had that torrential rain in December. So you got saturated ground conditions. That works as a vapor barrier itself. Now, on top of that, let's say the ground just dried out and you still have all these VOCs underground. You're not going to get, sorry, what causes these, these vapor plumes is when the barometric pressure goes from high to low. It starts to suck the air out of the ground. And when that happens, these levels go up exponentially. And the requirement for the EPA is that they're supposed to test at what they call the reasonable maximum exposure level. Well, like I said, that only happens when they're testing during a rapid pressure change. And so the odds of them going out there and testing and that actually happening, what I've been told is that the way they do this, you have to do what they call continual testing. But they only go out and they test at a certain time of the year. Now, they are doing right now they're doing gas vapor probe testing right now. They've been doing it for a couple of weeks, and they're supposed to be doing it for the next couple of days is the range of it. We've had some Santa Ana winds, which brings in a high pressure. The winds have dropped down, and now we've gone to low pressure, so we'll wait and see on this next report what's going on. What I just told you here that just recently in the geo tracker files, Pneumo Abex has submitted a work plan for additional vapor intrusion assessment. Now, a vapor intrusion assessment is indoor testing. They haven't implemented it. This is just a plan, so I think some of the pressure that we've been putting on there is starting to pay off because this hasn't happened before. But we need to get to indoor testing to find out if people are being poisoned, because as long as we keep on going back into this, well, we need to go back. We're just going into this cycle, what I call the paralysis of analysis. They're just going around, and the water board has told us at the last meeting, they don't go to indoor testing until they have consistent vapor readings above ESLs. And so that we're not getting them. You'll get them 1 year, 6 months later, they won't be there, they'll be below. But the big problem was that one well that's out on 5th near Patterson, well 34. As I told you, it was at is 84,000 at 10 foot and 63,000. And you typically, if it was that high, you would see similar readings around that area. We're not seeing that. So there's another slide that I actually did put in here, demonstrated this. I talked to Bert Perillo or I had an email exchange with him and the Public Works Director, Michael Wolf. And I explained to them, this is the flow direction. This is the flow direction of the water in the aquifer, okay? And then when they take, this next slide is showing the water table's contamination. And I'm sorry, but I did not get a blow up of this, but as I'm reading, as you can see, this lobe that turns immediate off the property, turns immediately to the left. Well, and it would be on our right here, going eastbound on 5th Street. And that's where that one problematic well 34 is. And as you can see, the green line that you can see going down 5th Street and then turning south down Patterson Road, that green line is a sewer line. And we were concerned about how many houses in this neighborhood share those sewer lines, because this is a pathway from a highly contaminated source. To his credit, Michael Wolf went and did some investigatory testing, and they tested wastewater, and they all came out non-detect. And I went ahead and threw this over to my people. I threw it to Jim Ryan at the water board and to my other guy, his name's Dr. Mark Cram. He's another geohydrologist. They both told me the same thing. He says, you don't need to test, shouldn't be testing wastewater. What you need to be doing is testing the vapor. And it's very simple. All they do is stick a tube down a manhole cover, and there happens to be one right by there. So that's where we're at right now. We haven't done it yet. But I do have some maps of the sewer lines, and I think about 8 homes along Dunkirk share that same sewer line. So the other thing is, as you know, they've also been doing indoor testing over at the elementary school at Juan Lagunas. They use this method where they use these canisters. And what they do is they put them out there and they randomly sniff every hour. It takes a sample. And these are old archaic methods because, as I said, they have to test during a pressure drop to get what they call the maximum reasonable exposure. So these are not conducted to that. I've been told in order to get an accurate reading, they have to do this 71 times. And they're only doing it once every 6 months. There are newer methods of doing indoor testing, and they're relatively inexpensive. And they have this company up in Santa Barbara that it's called Vapor Safe, and they do a continual testing, and they will test anywhere from 1 to 3 days and get more accurate readings. Now, the reason I've been told why their water board is reluctant to go to indoor testing is because in these neighborhoods, there are residual contaminants. People keep chemicals in their garages, and they don't want to get those confused with it. So this is why they're continuing doing this round of, going in and testing the wells and doing vapor. However, with these modern tests, they can actually weed this stuff out because typically if they're getting a reading for, let's say, and they're detecting benzene, and let's say they continually get benzene, and then they get a pressure drop, and they still get benzene, they can weed that out. They can say, well, this is not coming during a period that's conducting to vapor intrusion when we have that plume. So we're trying to get the water board, and this is probably going to be at the state level, where we have to get our elected officials to pressure them to try to get these testing standards updated. Now, I think that the water board, despite their, they have valiant efforts, they're trying to, get to the bottom of this, but I think their hands are tied basically by, the current guidelines that they have now, and the fact that the companies that are doing this testing for pneumo ABEX, they are the customers of pneumo ABEX. And from what I've heard, the dirty secret is if they know what conditions to test so they can get a false negative, they can do it. And they know who the hand that feeds are. So that's their customer. So that's something we have to be aware of. So, and at this point, that's pretty much what I've got. If anybody would like to have any questions or comments.
Before we open it up, Isaac, is there anything that you wanted to add to this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Doug, for putting that together. I think that was a great overview, good context, and a pretty complete overview of what's going on with this complicated and serious issue. I think Bert Perello will thank you for mentioning that there's no drinking water.
I know, I was going to get my
drinking water.
hand slapped if I didn't.
Yeah, so that's good that you mentioned that right up top. I will mention that on September 9th of last year, our neighborhood hosted a public meeting with those LA Regional Water Control Board people. They had a whole presentation. I think you probably stole some of their slides. Is that right? Yeah.
Well, I made up my old slides, but I did take some of their dialogue.
Images and stuff? Yeah,
Yes.
Perfect. So
Made sure I was accurate.
that meeting is on YouTube. You can go back and watch it, see their presentation. They spent a good chunk of time at answering questions that folks asked. So if you've got an extra 3 or 4 hours to kill, you can go watch that. Yeah, this is a complicated thing. So like Doug said, reading through all this data on GeoTracker is like looking for a needle in a haystack. It's super complicated. I'm a scientifically minded person. I'm an engineer in my day job, and I can't make heads or even begin to make heads or tails of that data. It's presented in a very opaque way that you need serious understanding to even breach the surface. So I commend Doug and a few other people for really sticking it out and looking through that data comprehensively. Yeah, so where to go from here? One thing I will mention is one of our new council members, Michaela Perez. Sounds like her mother or her family bought a house in Seaview Estates, and she didn't know anything about that, about this topic. So that might be another person to really lean on to get things going. If Mr. Wolf is willing to do testing of wastewater, there might be more that he can do.
Yeah,
That'd be fantastic to push that. Like you mentioned, I do agree that the Water Control Board, they're hemmed in on a lot of different fronts. They're understaffed, under budget. Their legal authority is only to a certain extent. They're very conservative in that they won't push this company to do more for fear of litigation against them. So I do agree that going above their heads to state and even higher local elected officials is probably a way to go. So again, commending you guys for bringing this to the body. If we can continue to work on next steps and use this body's power to maybe attract an elected official from the state where they might not come to my neighborhood council, but maybe they'll come to the larger INCO. So I'd be happy to work with you guys on that, or however, if you want me to make a motion or whatever. But I appreciate you bringing this to the body, and yeah, like I said, good presentation, Doug.
all right, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, with that, does anybody want to ask any questions? Coming up to the mic, please, if there is. Anybody on the web? How about on the dais? I have one. I did go through the State of California website, but I didn't get through all the pages. The earliest time that I saw was a cleanup and abatement order, which dated back to 1995. Did it go back further?
No, it was when they left the facility, and it was, yeah, so when I think I got here, 1990, yeah, February 1995 is when they issued that order.
Yes. Okay. All right, that's all I had. Does anybody else have anything?
Chair, we have one person online, if I could
Okay.
let them talk.
Who
Go
is
ahead,
it?
Roger.
Okay.
Roger.
Roger, go ahead.
There you go.
Roger, can you?
No,
There
there
we
it is.
go.
Okay, sorry.
There we go.
There you are.
Sorry I couldn't join you this evening, fellow chairs. That's how things go sometimes. Hey, Doug Tauber, fantastic presentation.
Thank you.
I'm curious about the migration of these contaminants. They're not getting down into there. I mean, is there any way to find out? Do they go below like 500 feet? Are they getting down into the real aquifers, or they're just stuck in the perched groundwater? And are they heading towards the aquifer underneath Campus Park where that ASR well is? This is an injection well, which is going to inject the recycled water coming from the AWPF plant at Perkins Road. So, I mean, this is the future of Oxnard's drinking supply. I'm curious, you know, are these chemicals that are being generated around Oxnard Airport, are they heading towards this aquifer underneath Campus Park?
So the flow, as you saw in those charts, the flow is southward. So I think your neighborhood up in, you're up in Hobson Park there, right? So you are north of it, and what they usually do
Well-
is, sorry?
Campus Park is east of where, I mean, I think you did say that there was an issue with these contaminants heading east
Oh,
along
yeah,
Fifth Street.
along Fifth Street, that's correct. The
Because
aquifer,
that's where the aquifer is, under Campus Park. It's
Yeah.
Fifth and K, basically.
yeah, true, it's turned direction. They have not figured out why it's doing this, and this is why I've been going after the sewer lines. Like I said, the direction of flow is south, and if you saw that contamination field here, if I can go back, see that lobe that goes off to the right-hand side of the screen. They don't know, and they just continue to, let's put another probe in. There's a work order for more probes to be put in just south of that lobe. They're gonna be doing that pretty soon. And like I said, we don't know. We're in what I call the paralysis of analysis. They're just going around in circles and kicking the can down the road. But like I said, what I like to see is for us to go straight to indoor testing, because that's what we really need to know. Is this neighborhood being poisoned? There are different levels of exposure. There's long-term and short-term. Long-term, by the way, the school, which is now having indoor testing, they are using what they call commercial levels, because it's a place where you only spend 8 hours a day. So those ESLs will typically be higher, although you got children there, but that's not the way they look at it. Let's see. Where was I going with this? Hang on. I think I lost you there, Adam. I think my screen went small. Hang on. Here we go. Getting back to this. That lobe, like I said, I don't know. I don't know why it's making that turn. But oh my God, here. Let me go back. Going back here, that's the flow. That's where they determine how the water is running. So they won't test anything north of that. They're not required to, I guess, by law. But yeah, sure, I'd like to know.
I would too.
Yeah. So,
The Teal Club would like to know.
yeah, I'm sure they would. And yeah.
Or not.
But,
Doug,
they're only going by,
what-
just understand, they're only going by the guidelines that they're set to go by. And the water board is not gonna go outside their realm, because, they're dealing with a company that has lawyers, guns, and money, And actually, at that meeting that we had back on the 9th of September, Isaac, you remember, there were, on the list, there were lawyers present. I don't know who they were for, but that's what we're up against.
Do you have anything else, Roger?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would actually like to see maybe somebody from the state to come,
Yeah, that's what our
if you guys are okay with that.
elected officials, at the state level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Doug.
thank you.
Okay. Let's move on.
Carnegie Art Museum.
Neighborhood chair reports. Neighborhood chairs may individually report on items of interest or concern to their neighborhoods. The INCO cannot enter into a detailed discussion to take action on any item presented during these reports. Does anybody have any reports? Go ahead and get up to the mic and.
Hey, good evening. Sandy Diaz from Rio Lindo, and we do have our next meeting March 20th, and we do have code compliance coming to talk to us, as well as the emergency, I think, preparedness group coming, and we have our council person, Mr. Starr, and also we're getting an update from a neighbor who has been doing some investigating over the speed humps and bumps in our neighborhood, especially on St. Mary's. So he'll be giving a short, brief presentation on what he has learned. And also last month I did report that there was damage done to our park when they were applying the mulch. And because we have a very persistent neighbor who lives in front of the park, he was able to get someone from the Parks and Rec, a real person, to come to the park and meet with himself and 2 other neighbors. And as of today, a lot of the damage has been repaired, the little fences, and there's a new mulch pile brought to our park, so I'm sure they're going to fill it in. But yeah, persistency does work, and so yeah, the park is looking good. So thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Next. Hi.
Good evening, everybody, but please excuse my tardiness. So we had Wilson Neighborhood met this past week, and we met the downtown Doya offices because we couldn't get the library or the senior center. That's a recurring problem, so just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. But we met, and the fire department came, and they did a lovely demonstration. They brought the stuff that they brought to INCO, which was really well taken by my neighbors. Same with the police department. We had a lot of questions because of the fatality on H Street and things that have been going on in the downtown. And then we also created committees for our neighborhood council, just focus groups, I want to say, being that the Wilson neighborhood has the Henry T. Historic District in it. We created a subcommittee for that. And we did that for a couple reasons, not to redo the historic district, but because the historic district houses Candy Cane Lane and has done some things in the past. We have some old historic lighting that we'd like to see revamped, and it's really dark on F and G Street. There's only like one really high light per block, and the trees pretty much block out all that light coming down, so they're pretty worthless. So just kind of these types of things, little focus groups that we'd like to work on as a neighborhood that don't require meeting as a whole all the time. Sometimes we can come in and just do some research and bring it back to the neighborhood. So I just want to encourage that in any way that, and also another one for our National Night Out. So just trying to activate our neighborhoods so that people get involved and realize that change starts at home, and this is our home, and you have to be active. Otherwise, people will just take advantage of whatever opportunities present themselves, as we've all seen in the past. So that's pretty much all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening. I'm Larry Stein, the chairman of Lemonwood, for those who don't know. We had our first neighborhood meeting a few weeks ago, first meeting in several years. It was rain that evening, and we had one guest. We had El Concilio as a guest speaker. I recommend other chairmen invite other social organizations as El Concilio and Mexicana, Nacio, to discuss ICE issues. So they provide advice to what neighbors can say and do should they be visited by ICE. So I recommend that neighborhood chairman invite these organizations to speak at your neighborhood meetings. They can help the neighbors in your neighborhood understand what they can and cannot, what they can and should not do if they don't want to do when it comes to the people from ICE visiting our city. The city of Oxnard is not a sanctuary city, but it is a safe city. So by that means that we won't lose federal funding, but we can still be proactive to help our residents protect themselves against intrusions from ICE. Just my opinion, and thank you much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
John Ike, Bryce Canyon North. So we had a neighborhood meeting, February 27th, joint meeting, Bryce Canyon North, Bryce Canyon South. We did not make quorum for each neighborhood, so we had no election. There was a discussion about traffic conditions. One of the things that I was focused on is, I guess the traffic engineers that put decals, I guess you call them decals, bicycle decals on Channel Islands Boulevard, and that's not a good idea. I did some measurements of the street, and if you look at the measurements of cars and the amount of street in the right lane where bicycles should be, there's not enough room, and then there's the jog that occurs when you get close to J Street when you're moving west.
Well, hold on, John.
Mute.
Go ahead.
So there's that jog when you're traveling west on Channel Islands that goes to J Street. There's parked cars in that area, and there's even less room for bicycles. So anyway, I haven't written a report about it yet because I'm thinking about how do I format this so you can read it. So I'm going to do that eventually. And then there was a discussion maybe of wanting to put speed humps on Bruce Street and then on J Street. So I'm not sure if J Street qualifies, but I'll contact the traffic engineers to see if that's possible. So Michaela Perez introduced herself to the people who attended and told people that if they have problems to email her. So for those people in TV land, you can find Michaela Perez's email on the city website. If you're in District 6, you can send her email. She said, email her. She wants them, and she'll read them. And in the fire department, the emergency manager gave a presentation on dealing with emergencies, how to get set up for different conditions. And it'll be on YouTube, or it's on YouTube, if you want more information on that. And then Alex, our city manager, gave his presentation on the myths and other misconceptions about the city, and defined his role as city manager and what he does and how the city is doing with dealing with stuff in general. And that's also on YouTube. Well, that won't be on YouTube, no. But if you're having a neighborhood meeting, you can invite Alex to come there and give his presentation. And then we had a potluck, and we had New Orleans style red beans and rice. It was not Fat Tuesday, so it was not bon ton brulee. But, and also a cheesecake, and then Martinelli sparkling cider. So if you weren't there, you missed it.
Thank you. John, thank you.
Good evening, Ronald Arwejo, East Village. Next week in our neighborhood is going to be really busy. We have our neighborhood meeting, our selected elected official, United Water Conservation District Director, Lynn Mulhart, also has a presentation from the Public Works Department, of course with our city council person, and we have our bulky items cleanup on March 15 on Saturday. So next week, Thursday, March 13 is the neighborhood council meeting, and Saturday, March 15. We're also looking ahead to our May and likely August and November meetings, and we're in discussions with Assembly Member Steve Bennett's office and County Supervisor Kelly Long, who represents a couple neighborhoods in the far northeast and south east of Oxnard, and my goal is also to get each of their offices to come to INCO sometime between the June and end of the year. So the scheduling takes a little bit while for the county and state level, so hopefully my goal is to get them to my neighborhood and to INCO in general. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, I am Rainey with Cabrillo Neighborhood. We had our last meeting on Wednesday, February 12th. We had a great presentation by Jerry Martinez from the fire department. And he talked about the upcoming CERT class, which is going to be in April. And he also went over the VC alert and really encouraged everybody to sign up for that, which was great. He is really willing to do presentations everywhere and will adapt them for you. So I would highly recommend that you reach out to him. He did a great presentation. Our next meeting is scheduled for May 28th, I believe, and it will be at the Cabrillo Park. We're going to have it outdoors this time. And our next two will actually be outside, but May, the city manager will be presenting, and then our next one will be the National Night Out. And I would like to collaborate maybe with other chairs to see what we could do for National Night Out and be a little bit more comprehensive for those that want to participate. And I think that's it.
Thank you, Rainey. Is there anybody online first, and then we'll go to the desk here? No? Okay, go ahead, Chris.
19 February, Michaela went over and held a District 6 meeting for the entire district. Very informative. Mike Wolf was there from Public Works talking about alleys as well as the road plans, and basically expressed our concerns throughout the entire District 6. So it was a fantastic meeting, very long, but it was, we vented a lot of things out. 3rd of April, we're going to have a Blackstock South and North meeting to discuss primarily for the neighborhood bulky item cleanup on the 12th and try to get the volunteers going on that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Doug?
And yeah, Doug Tower with Via Marina. We just had our neighborhood council meeting last night, and Rainey, we did have Jerry Martinez. He was very impressive, and matter of fact, I think when we discussed our future agenda items, he said he's willing to come back and get into more detail about how to put together disaster preparative kits. And yeah, I was very impressed with him. We're also having our bulky item pickup this weekend, this Saturday. Unfortunately, I have to leave town, but I've got two of my members at large volunteering to help out with that. So,
Good.
and like I said, we had a very decent turnout. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa? Okay, we're all good up here. With that, let's move on to future agenda items. So does anybody, no?
It's executive board reports, Chair.
Oh, geez, I'm really good tonight. So executive board reports. Does anybody have any executive board reports to give? I don't either, so you do? No, I do not. Okay. Okay, so let's move on to future agenda items. Does anybody have, just so you know, we took a lot of your suggestions and they are on the list to get on the agenda. But if you have any other agenda items, recommendations? Anybody? Anybody online? I have one. Go ahead.
I don't know how we would get said report, but I would like to know how the federal funding cuts are going to affect our local grants, what grants the cities have in the pipeline and how that's going to affect us. Because as you know, things have been slashing and burning right and left, so it'd be nice to know where we stand.
Exactly. Thank you. Anybody else? No? Okay. I think that's it, because we do have a lot of stuff that you guys have made recommendations on our list. We just got to get them, we don't want to make our meetings too long. Anyways, tonight is a short one. I don't have any. Does anybody up here have any? Anybody online? No? So let's move on. Any objection to adjournment of this meeting? Having none, I adjourn this meeting.
Recording stopped.
I'll consume, pick up something like. Okay, good.